Hello, everyone. This is the first thing that I wanted to say to you, and maybe the most important thing I can say to you. Fundraising is a critical part of our community and our society. Look at your neighbor and say, you are very important. Look at your neighbor, tell him, you're very important. Tell him again, say, you're very important. All right, now, give your neighbor a high five. Go, high five. All right, now, I'm just kidding. So that was just a test of your compliance. You did very, very well. This is going to go well. So again, the thing I want this slide to really communicate to you is that fundraising is so incredibly important because it gives the resources to accomplish some of the greatest things in our society. Remember that the nonprofit sector is one of the things that makes Western society and the United States unique. We have a public sector, a large public sector, our government, that has a very, very, very important role. We have a private sector, corporate sector that is incredibly powerful. In my opinion, the corporate sector is the most powerful sector in our society. And I love the corporate sector, so it's very, very powerful. But when you look at things that the public sector, elected officials, can't do, and you look at things the corporate sector or the private sector won't do, those things are left to the third sector, to the nonprofit sector, to charities who have the ability to raise funds and fill in some of the most important gaps in our society. So again, you are very, very important. And the money that you raise helps change people's lives. I want this to be conversational. And from that perspective, I'd say this is the most important thing that I can tell you. If all you are doing is looking for a job or a career or fundraising tips, you're not only in the wrong room, but you're in the wrong career. Like the people that are successful at fundraising, the greatest fundraisers, the ones that do the most high impact resource gathering, it comes from a place that can't be faked, that can't be imitated. It comes from this true desire to do something meaningful in their community, in their country, or their world. Here's the big secret of fundraising. If you want to do something spectacular to change the world, and you'll just get some technical skills from people like Will and people like Clear Channel, there's nothing that can stop you. But you can't fake it, and if your job at corporate America just didn't work out, and so now I guess I got to try to fix cancer. I got to tell you, I'll give you some fancy presentation. We'll spin some charts out. We could just sit here all day because it's the most important part. Because the nonprofit sector, the very fact that you got that designation from the government is because you're supposed to have a higher calling. Don't take that religiously, but you're supposed to have a higher purpose. That's why you have this designation. And so, again, at the very start of this, and as we finish, I would tell you, think on that. Think about what's important to you. Think about what makes you mad. Homelessness, which is an issue that I help lead in our community, in our region, it's something I started years ago to be a part of, because it just made me upset. Like, it was so upsetting to think about all that I had. I mean, guys, look out the window. Look out the glass. Look. You're having freaking lunch in the Citrus Club talking about fundraising. Like, we all have done all right with ourselves, all right? So, and I love that. I love hanging out at the Citrus Club. I love hanging out with people like you. But I took that as a mandate to help those that were less fortunate. It made me mad. And that probably has been one of the greatest things that helped me be a successful fundraiser. Does that make sense? So again, you are important. Fundraising is important. And we need to be the generation that takes that to the next level. I want to talk to you just for a few minutes about what philanthropy looks like in the United States. And for some of you, this might be shocking and interesting, and maybe you haven't heard this before, but let's take just a second and look at it. So this is Giving USA. By the way, if you write givingusa.org down, the best information on giving in total comes from Giving USA. They're the official reporter of philanthropy in America. So this is their most recent study that I'm going to go into in a second. Giving peaked back again in 2013. The 2014 report obviously isn't done. At $335 billion in 2013. There were $335 billion philanthropically given in 2013. Look at your neighbor and say, that's a lot of cash. It's a lot of cash. How does that break down? This is I want you to see this because it's very, very important. And I want to show you that, for some of you, I want to tell you that you'll see this slide a lot. It is the most deceptive, miscommunicated slide that everyone miscommunicates, and I'm going to show you right now why. Foundations. They give 15% of the over $300 billion they did last year. $48 billion last year. Bequests, legacy giving, 8%, $27 billion. Corporations, 5% of money given. Gosh, I would think it would be more than that. It's only $17 billion. But then individuals gave 72%, $240 billion. So we got to focus on individuals, right? Right? It's deceptive. It's deceptive. You'll never hear this, but it's totally deceptive. Here's why. And I'm not going to take a lot of time. In my Rollins presentation, I go into this. But if you track back, the top givers, individuals, I have the top 200 I can pull up on a slide. All of them are rooted in corporate America. All of them have their money from corporate America, and their relationships are in corporate America. So maybe they give as an individual, but their relationship in society is in corporate America. Does that make sense? This is why I got to tell you, I'm not going to get really, really technical, but corporate relationships are the most important relationships in your world. Corporate relationships and building relationships with corporate America is your number one task. Now, number two right behind that is going to be having systems to work with high wealth individuals. Guess where most of those people got their money or how you meet them? You meet them in corporate settings. So how many of you live in Isleworth? Raise your hand. Isleworth? No, okay, so none of you in here live next to Tiger Woods or next to... All right, so I do not live in Isleworth either. I do not live in $1 million home. And the reason that's important is because if I did live in Isleworth, I could walk out of my house, I could knock on my neighbor's door and say, hello, I'm Andrae, and I'm your neighbor, and we're peers, and let's have coffee, and then one day I'm going to ask you for $1 million. Right? It's a joke, but this is why, again, corporate America is so important. Because, to be clear, we don't roll with those people. I mean, maybe you do. Maybe you're impressive, and maybe you hang out with a bunch of just millionaires in your life. And if you do, please let me know, because I'd love to come hang out with you. We're going to be best friends, if that's true. You just don't know it yet. But for the rest of us, our way to get into the biggest slice of this money is through relationships through corporate America. In my position at the Central Florida Commission on Homelessness, which is a position I'm privileged to have and is technically the top position on homelessness in the region, I have access to business leaders who I would never have access to outside of that. CEOs of every corporation in this community, top elected officials. So they're not in a relationship with me, though, right? They're in a relationship with my mission and my vision through that corporate setting that gives me access to them and maybe access to their wealth. So I just have to tell you, I believe, my opinion, that we teach philanthropy all wrong when we just focus on going after individual donors. Because corporate America is the key in the relationships with corporate America to all the big money. Again, that doesn't mean you don't, trust me, I have complex systems on acquisition and cultivation. I'm just telling you, as much as you can center yourself in corporate America, you're going to be successful. That was just a little sidebar. Just breaking down, let's see where you fit in here. How did they break this $335 billion down? 31% was given to religion. I'm going to get to the scary part for those of you that have faith-based organizations. 16% education, 12% human services, 37% gifts to foundations, 10% health, 7% public society benefit, arts, international affairs, environment, and animals. So where do you fit in there? Where do you fit? Someone throw out which one you fit in. What's your percentage? 3%. By the way, environment and animals, fastest growing category per capita, one of the fastest, even though it's 3%. Where do you fit? Where's your number? Health. Health giving has declined in America over the past 20 years, just a note. Especially over the last few years because of the perception. The Affordable Care Act has a very interesting effect on health giving. So we'll talk about that more in a minute. I want to show you, this is giving since 1973 to 2013. Looks like we give a lot more money, right? Not true. Again, this is a lot of this stuff, I love it, but I want to show you, this is total giving in America based on gross domestic product from 1973 to last year. Basically, giving in 1973 was 1.8% of GDP, and last year it grew a whopping 0.2% in, 40 years? 40 years. This is why, again, you guys are so important. We have not inspired, those of us that do this kind of work, we have not inspired any movement in philanthropic giving in this country in 40 years. See it? It's right there. What's exciting, though, is that there's a lot of money out there right now, but this is why the messaging and your marketing and your passion is important. We have got to move this number. We have got to inspire people with our missions and our visions and our marketing and our strategies to move this number. Guys, if we doubled this number from 2% to 4%, if we did, you're talking about now almost $700 billion for charities in America. So this is very important. There's that in a line graph chart. Corporate giving, pre-tax corporate giving, 1973 to now. Fascinating. You see it spiked. The greatest time of philanthropic giving in modern American history was during the second Ronald Reagan administration. Fascinating. I'm not saying why. I'm just telling you. I'm really not. I'm just saying the 4 years, the second term of Ronald Reagan was the highest amount of philanthropic giving in modern history. And it's actually kind of tailored down. Corporate giving kind of back at a 40-year low. So we need to inspire these folks. Now, this is the one I want to show you that, again, for some of you that have faith missions, this should be something to look at. And based on your category, I want you to see how giving, this is the whole $330 billion broken down by category. So last year, 34% of the money went to religion. This is people just giving to their church. Education, human services, etc., the percentages. But if you look over a trend, 1984, that second Reagan administration, whether that's chance or whether there's something to that, per capita giving about the same as it is now, but 57 cents of every dollar went to a religious institution. Run those numbers over to here, that is down to 34% as of last year. Almost a 40% drop in giving to religious institutions in 20.
How does that correlate with religious attendance?
It correlates in the neighborhood, but not exact. Does that make sense? So I would just tell you, though, but here's what's interesting. Giving is not down, but giving to religious institutions is down. I say that just for this reason. This is just a little sidebar. What the research shows is that people are less inclined to give to religion by itself, but they're very inclined to give to a religious charity that's doing humanitarian work or some kind. So don't think that people don't want to be a part. I would just say, though, that
Sermon on the Mount. I love
the Sermon on the Mount. The Sermon on the Mount still plays. It still plays. But just realize if you see churches, especially just core churches, dying, well, they lost 50% roughly of their money, and this number is going to keep dropping. So just as a significant part of a societal move, but watch, here's something kind of, if you're not faith-based, here's kind of a don't tell your faith guy neighbor, but that money is actually transferring to nonprofits. So for Catholic charities, for example, my gut is that a lot of the money people were giving to the Catholic Church 30 years ago, 20 years ago, they're giving to Catholic charities now, or that's the kind of shift you're seeing. Just fascinating. So big changes, not in giving, but how giving is allocated. So let's talk for just a few minutes. This is not going to be highly technical, but I want to talk to you about the pillars of sustainable fundraising. What are the 4 pillars? I'm telling you, if I was your consultant, I'm also the president of Strategic Nonprofits. That's my long-term future, to do nonprofit consulting and public speaking on this. This is based on the model that if you paid me a big pile of cash that I would walk you through. So it will take, for some of you, some of your organizations, this process should take the duration of your natural-born life to finish, but that's okay, because when you get there, you're going to be raising your $1 million in 30 days. That's actually chump change 10 years into a process if you have the right cultivation and acquisition strategies. So value proposition number 1, pillar number 1. What is your value proposition? I put it this way in a chart. Now you're going to see that I'm only going to fill the top 3 boxes and the bottom box. The other 3 are very administratively focused, and I don't want to focus on that today because we don't have time. But what's your mission and your value proposition? And I want to go back a little bit to what I started this with. Guys, gals, you can't fake this part. You just can't. Your mission and what you are currently accomplishing or planning to accomplish to make the world a better place are the foundation of all the rest that happens here. And for some of you, you're like, okay, you're really chewing on that. It's really absorbing. The ultimate foundation to raising money is that you're doing something valuable to make the world a better place. If you're working for an agency that you've been there a long time and you know the agency really doesn't do anything, get out. Leave. If this is a fundraising conversation, of course, they might be great, wonderful people. But at the end of the day, you can't fake. So we're all insiders here. So I'm going to give you an insider version of this. So fundraising is a lot like dating. Look at your neighbor and say, it's just like dating. So it's just like dating. All right, watch. I'm going to go somewhere with this. I've done this for years. It's the best analogy I can give you. So let's say we're all hanging out at the Citrus Club with Will, and we're all young singles, and we're his friends, and we're all on the dating scene, right? Some of you are singles, a lot of you are married, I'm married, but let's say we're all on the dating scene. When you think about how you would look for someone you want to date, someone you want to marry, there's a certain mentality that instantly happens when you do that. If ladies, we'll just do a little experiment. If I were to tell you, we're all single, we're all young, we're all in the dating scene, that, there's this guy in here, we're all hanging out with Will. Will's helping us. He's one of the speed daters. He's got a TV show for speed dating. He looks like he could do that. But Will comes in and says, ladies, listen, there's this guy in here, just so you know, he's single, he's 30, and he is the CFO of Microsoft. So, I think he's been with them, for like a lot of years. So, he's probably he's probably really, really wealthy. Would that be of any, just practically speaking, you haven't seen him, you don't know his name, you don't know anything about him. That's kind of interesting, right? That's kind of interesting. All right, we're being candid here. We're being honest. Now, most of you, that wouldn't be interesting. But for other women, that'd be interesting. Men, we're all here in this same experiment. And Will says, hey, men, single men. There's a single lady in there. You know, she's a single, looking for dates, and she's a Sports Illustrated supermodel. You haven't met her. You haven't seen her. Men, would that for other men, that might be of interest, right? Not the men in here. So here's what I just proved. Sometimes just the perceived value of something, without even seeing it, without even knowing what it is, really is definitive above everything else in our society. Again, it's so clear in a dating sense, it's almost funny. But in fundraising, when it comes to your mission and what you do, it's the same principle. Oh, you know that cancer organization? They literally are helping transform cancer. What do they call it? I can't even remember. What's the lady that runs it? I don't know, but they're amazing. That Florida hospital, it's the largest hospital in the country doing this amazing victim service center. You know, what they do is completely unique, and it's transforming. Well, what do you know? I don't know anything. I don't know who they are. Your mission and your value proposition for the community has to be definitive and has to speak for you. I'm going to get off this right now because I want to move on to some other things I'm going to finish in just 15 minutes. But guys, you can't fake it. What do? I wrote this. Ask yourself a question. Do you really do anything that's valuable for your community? And if you don't, and you're the founder or a board member, fix it. Do something valuable, and that's the foundation and pillar of fundraising. Have you seen Office Space? I just put this out. Remember this? He gets hypnotized and, you know, I'm not quitting my job. I'm just not going to go there anymore. Guys, do what you do with passion. Lead your organizations to change the world around you. And I'm telling you, 60% of your work is done. This is what's important. If you do all the rest of the stuff and you read all the books and you go to all the classes and you can do all the proposals and you have all the technical stuff and you don't do something valuable, it's like a Rolls Royce with no gas in it. You're never going to go anywhere. So, do what you do with passion. I'm not quitting my job. I'm just not going there anymore. Don't let this be a job. Let it be a mission for you. And be a part of an organization that it's a mission. Mission and value are proposition. I just pulled Charity Water's up, if you guys know Charity Water. I thought this was really, really cool. Charity Water, nonprofit organization bringing clean, safe drinking water to people in developing countries. There's a whole logic model behind this I teach on. But Charity Water, who they affect? People in developing countries. What's the action they do? Clean, safe drink, action, bringing, result, clean and safe drinking water. They actually do something incredible and they communicate it well. Pillar number 2, look at your neighbor and say, number 2.
Number 2.
Find your message. What is the story that you tell? The message, so the message is in the top box here. Your ability to communicate your message is critical in building awareness. Once you're doing something valid, the next critical step is putting your message out there. Awareness is the foundation of fundraising. If you do something very, very valuable and you have some good people internally and externally that help you communicate what you do, you are 80% of the way there. 80%. Ask yourself a quick question. Do you clearly and passionately and deliberately communicate your message? How do you communicate it? What is your marketing strategy? How many of you in here have professional marketing people that help you? Raise your hand. Okay, so I just have to encourage you. Again, I'm not sure or recommending who to work with. I'm thinking Will, do you guys do this kind of work, right? Obviously. So I'm just telling you this, and this is like, Will's not paying me anything. I'm not paid to do this, and I have no part of this. It's so critical that you're able to tell your story and tell it right. Our our Rethink Homelessness campaign. I will tell you that homelessness is an issue that Central Florida struggled with for 30 years. 30 years. We have not made statistical progress on homelessness in 30 years. How many of you have been in Central Florida for a decade or 2 decades, lived here? We haven't made a lick of progress in homelessness in 30 years. That's when I took over the Commission on Homelessness 14 months ago, that's a pretty strong statement. And there's 5 people that had my job before, all of which that failed, and they executed them publicly. So this sounds really exciting. This sounds like something I really want to do. It was tough, but I will tell you this, that one of the things we found, and we found very, very quickly, is that the message around our issue and about what our community needed to do was just all wrong. One of the first things I was told was that you can never, ever sell to people the fact these people downtown with the long beards and they're dirty and they're panhandling. Ignore that issue. People will never support that issue. And in a way, those folks that told me that were true. What they said was true. But what we found out, and one of the things we communicated in our Rethink Homelessness messaging, was that those folks were mentally ill, physically disabled, and the greatest, largest group of them traditionally were veterans that served in the military and now had post-traumatic stress disorder or a physical injury. So suddenly, this thing you could never communicate and get people behind, because we changed our message, all of a sudden we took a negative, made a positive, and I would say, others would say, not just me, that we've got the greatest momentum on this issue in Florida history. Guys, we have momentum, and we haven't tangibly done one thing yet. Messaging is so important. Guys, the Rethink Homelessness campaign, so I thought of the whole thing myself. Wrong. So actually, I want to tell you this because Will will find this funny. So I had this great idea a year ago for a homeless campaign. It was really mine, me and one of the guys that works for me. We were going to call it Homeless Voices, or we had this whole pitch, and we had these group of community leaders come together that were going to operate in a think tank. We had a guy come in by the name of Bob Codzes. I don't know if any of you know Bob, but Bob used to do creativity for Orlando Health for 17 years. So if you've been with Florida Hospital a while, it was a good thing he left, because he was brilliant. Bob now in my opinion, he's one of the smartest people I've ever met on the creative side. So a lot of good people, but the key is use professionals. Bob comes into this pitch meeting. I give this big presentation on my homeless campaign, Homeless Voices, and in the middle of the meeting, the freaking mayor's there and all this, Bob's like, "This, I don't even know him." He's like, "This campaign is terrible." This campaign is terrible. It's terrible. He's nice, but he's like, "This is terrible." And I thought it was actually pretty good. It was I'll show it to you. It's pretty good. So I said, "Bob, I don't know you, but thank you for coming to my meeting and ruining it. But I got to tell you, you do this for a living. If you don't like my campaign, please help me. You're a professional at messaging. Help me." He said, "Okay, I'll help you." Of course, I didn't think he would help. I thought he would just leave and critique mine, and we'd use my great campaign, and it would work wonderfully. And by the way, the campaign would have been fine. It really would have. It would have been fine. Bob comes back. My office is on the first floor of this building. Bob comes back, calls me 2 days later, and says, "Hey, can we grab a quick cup of coffee? I got this idea I want to run by you." And so I was already up here at the Citrus Club doing a meeting. Some of you know it's my second office, because I have my office in this building. And Bob walks up in his jeans and his T-shirt, and they let him in. They shouldn't have, but they let him in. And he sits down in front of me in the booth right in the corner, and he pulls out of his back pocket a cardboard sign that he has all folded up. And on it, all it says is "Rethink Homelessness." He turns the sign around, and it says on the back, "The largest growing number of homeless people are women and children." And he turns it back around. And I said, "Oh, Bob, you're just so wonderful." My campaign would have been all right. Bob's campaign was the most successful campaign on homelessness in American history. Jacksonville is starting it in November. Los Angeles, Atlanta, New York, Texas, they're all talking about doing it. This is the key, guys. Get your messaging right. Spend money. Get professionals. Get help. Do something great, and then figure out how to tell people how wonderful it is in the most creative, professional way possible. One other thought on this, and I'm going to wrap up in just a minute. I think I'm over my time. Here's the problem with my campaign, my great campaign, because it was wonderful, is that I'm competing with Clear Channel's best stuff. I'm competing with NBC's best stuff. I'm competing with Push Advertising's best stuff. I mean, we are in our world. My campaign really was great in our world, right? I'm one of you guys. But in the arena of ideas, I was fighting the heavyweight champs out there. So you got to have a campaign that can compete in the arena of ideas, and that's why it's going to take, again, maybe you have some great people. I would just tell you, though, come up with the best messaging based on the best mission you have, and that's going to be a huge part of how you're successful. Again, if you have messaging, you have a great mission, the next part is building your team. And this is just, again, so basic. I'm going to wrap up in just a few minutes. So basic. Who is your staff and volunteer team, including board people? This is something I would tell you I devote hours in training sessions and modules and 3-month strategy sessions on this. But if you do not have the right team, if you do not have the right development department built, if you do not have the right board structure, you can have the right mission, you can have the right message, but who is the team of people that is going to work with you in your relationship building, acquisition, and cultivation? Again, we're talking about fundraising here, so forget your program side. Let me just say this to you. I think this is very helpful. Everyone just catch this really quick. So I was with a group a few weeks ago, asked me to come down and look at they raised multiple millions of dollars government money, and they raised like $0 in philanthropic dollars, and it's like they have like a $5 million a year organization, and they have $100,000 in the bank. I mean, like they barely have enough to like float payroll based on their cash flow because of the public funding and how it doesn't meet the needs. So when they said, well, what we want to do, we want to raise money. So Andrae, we'd love to take this gal here, who right now is one of the secretaries. By the way, if anyone refers to someone as a secretary, that's like one key note that they're not very progressive. So they said, we're going to take this secretary, and I think we want this guy, gal, to take 15 hours a week, and we're going to use that person to go raise millions of dollars. So that is not going to work. And I would just tell you, and this is for a whole nother session. I would say that a good fundraising team is made up of at least 4 different positions. 4 positions. I don't go heavy into this. Now, if you're a one-man show, one-lady show, sorry, you got to do 4 jobs. 4 jobs. You have the job of the face, the person who's out in the community, the face. You've got the job of face part 2, which is someone who's out focused on corporate relationships. You've got a community relations person who's out focused on just, I show this in a second in a stratification and segmentation. I'll show it to you in a second. But this is based on different parts of society you're working with. Then you have someone internal who never leaves the office, admin. You've got to have internal and external. When I manage teams of people, one of the things I always do in my staff meetings is I have people that their only job is to stay away from the office. I would walk in, I had my team, they'd be at the office on their computer. Their job was relationship building. I was like, what are you doing here? Like, unless you're giving a tour in 10 minutes, go hang out at the Starbucks. There are no donors on this campus right now. So, but then other people, you have to have them putting in the database, sending back the letters. So just keep in mind, if you have a boss, if you're not the CEO, you're not a board member, I guess I could say it this way. This gentleman was like, we want to raise $1 million, a month, a year, whatever. That's going to take a significant, legitimate investment to do. This is not horseshoes and hand grenades. You're going to need to make an investment, and that team's important. Let me also just say, I think it's important to know, as we talked about earlier, that great convergence of shared vision, every team member complements each other, and you guys are emotionally bonded. So you got to have people on your team that buy into your mission, your vision as well. The other side of this, though, is you got to invest in a team and have board members that are going to also be connected and be willing to do some work. Pillar number 3, kind of wrapping up here. Your staff and your volunteer team will make or break your fundraising. Who will champion the mission every day? I talked about that, Building a team, top priority for your fundraising. Number 4, just kind of closing up here, I know I'm over. Your technical structure and system on fundraising. So you have your mission, you're doing something great. It's so simple, but I'm telling you, this is all fundraising is. You're doing something really great. You can't fake this. You cannot fake this. You've got to do something valid. You figure out how to have great messaging. You're going to tell people what you do, marketing, advertising in a great way. You're going to build a great team, a legitimate team. Finally, the systems that you put in place. Fundraising, this is a methodology that I have that's trademarked, but I want to talk to you about it. I call it the CASS system, C-A-S-S. Again, I teach 6-week seminars on this. Fundraising, when you've put all the rest together, is about relationship building in a systematic, absolute scientific way. I walked in, Will was talking about some database or something. I've heard him talk about this before. This is where those aspects are so important. Has a lot, for some of you who have done sales before, there's a tiny hint of sales to this, but it's not sales. CASS stands for cultivation, acquisition, stratification, and segmentation. Fundraising teams that raise the most money over the prolonged lifespan of the organizations have something great they do, they communicate their message, they put the right teams together, and they know how to cultivate, acquire, stratify, and segment donors. Why is cultivation first? Why is cultivation first? Because right now, somebody in here, you raise $1.5 million. I know your organization. You raise $1.5 million probably with about 2,000 active donors, of which 147 of them give $10,000 around there or a little bit more. You have 10 people that actually give $50,000 or more, and you got a bunch of people that give $50 and $100. For any of you in development, that sound kind of familiar? Just in different strokes? That's, all right, so $1.5 million out of that group of 2,000 people. If you lose half of that group of people today, and your budget goes down to $900,000 a year, what happens to you? Bad things. There you go. That's the correct answer. Bad things happen to you. So we think of fundraising as, I'm going to go to the seminar, I'm going to go get more, right? I'm hungry. I'm going to go get some more. But if you don't first protect what is already paying your bills, you could go reach for more and hurt yourself. So cultivation is the key, the first part of a healthy relationship system. The second is acquisition. Acquisition is right now, how many donors do you have that are active? Someone to throw a number. How many active donors do you have? Give me a number. All right, just so you know, this is typical and this is okay. But if you don't know how many active donors you have, look at your neighbor and say, we got some problems, Houston. Guys, if you're a fundraiser, if you're a fundraiser, listen, all the rest is a bunch of BS, man. When it comes down to it, how many donors do you even have? Where do you keep them? What database do you use? And acquisition, cultivation's about ensuring you keep the lights on. It's about growing those people in a relationship with you and growing their money. Acquisition is about saying, today I have 50 donors, and those 50 donors produce about $5,000 a year. How many donors do I have next month at this time? Well, I have 50 donors. Well, did we acquire anyone? No, we did not. This is good. You follow along. But what if we, instead of having 50 donors at this time next month, we had 75 donors? That would mean we're growing, right? Guys, as simple as that sounds, that has to be the backbone of how you manage your development system. How many donors do we have? What are we out in the community doing? I'm going to wrap up this part by just telling you this. Anyone who gets paid by me to do fundraising, you are required to come in every week on a Monday to a report meeting and show me the 12 people you met with that last week. Funny, I talked to the president of BB&T Bank about my fundraising quotas. I make people, listen, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's someone you bump into at Starbucks. I do care for the higher level people. But this is quantified. If you are afraid of people, fundraising is probably not the best career option for you. Now, that doesn't mean you couldn't do something else. Fundraising is about building relationships. Guys, another little quick note. You're not going to be asking people for money all the time. I ask people for money like hardly ever. And when I do, my relationships with those people are so good, it kind of goes like this. I won't tell you the person's name, but a few weeks ago, I met with someone in this community who is one of the richest people in this community and said, how's the kids? Hey, what's going on? Want to go grab a drink? Hey, I need $50,000. For what? Well, don't worry about it. I need $50,000. And he said, all right, Betsy, give him $50,000. We'll send you a check. That was literally how the meeting went. I could ask him that, though, because every single week, every single month, I'm cultivating that relationship. He was acquired. It's all about building relationships very, very strategically. Then stratification and segmentation. I won't go through this. I can send it to you, though. It's kind of this concept you've seen before. Prospects, first-time donors, repeat donors, established donors. You're looking to move people up. This is cultivation. This is stratification and segmentation, though. I'm wrapping up right now, but I will tell you this. Because you have limited time, so guys, everyone is equal in God's eyes, but we are not equal in how we can help your charity. Everyone is equal in the good Lord's eyes, but everyone is not equal in an environment where some people can give you $50 and some people can give you $5 million. I know that's strong. For some of you, if that's strong, that's what stratification and segmentation is. It's about having all your donors. So do me a favor, write this down. If you don't know how many donors you have, you're going to find out how many donors you have today. Like, you must figure that out. But then the next step, let's say you're Florida Hospital. Florida Hospital probably has 100,000 active givers. I mean, it's an estimate, but I'm sure you have 100,000. Florida Hospital, with all those donors, they don't have unlimited staff. I bet you they have 8, 10 people. I mean, some number of development officers. They've got to be able to know corporate, faith givers, individuals, different sectors, and then who are the people that have the most revenue and offer the most opportunities to help the mission. Then you're targeting these people in your planning with your first minute of every day, every week, every month. Stratification and segmentation. You're going to do something amazing. You're going to have an amazing message. You're going to have an amazing team. And then you're going to acquire, cultivate, stratify, and segment. And you're going to be successful. A lot more we could go into, but I'm telling you right now, as simple as that is, I'm telling you right now, these are the 4 foundations to organizations I know that raise hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Guys, you are the hope, whether it's cancer, whether it's humanitarian services, the arts, faith, whatever your sector, we must grow this community's ability to give, because the organizations that you run, they really are the great hope for tomorrow. The public sector is so important. The private sector is critical. Economic growth is critical. But where would we be without the charities that are in this room and who are not represented in this room, that don't just make an environment for us to live, but they help make our lives worth living. And so I encourage you, again, threw a lot of information out at you. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. But keep doing what you're doing. Do it with passion. Communicate it well. And build teams that infiltrate your community and build donors. Real quick, you notice I never actually even talked about X amount of activities reach X amount of dollars, right? Because the money will just come. You budget it, but it'll just come if you do the right activities with a great mission and a great message behind it. So thank you guys so much for having me in. I appreciate it.